I want to tell you about a woman I interviewed not very long ago. In case you guys don't know, I have a new podcast show called Tell Me Why You're Special. Um, she had built something legit, business platform, like it's a life that, you know, looked from the outside like exactly what she said she'd always wanted, right? She created this. She was articulate and accomplished. And literally she's the kind of person that fills the room with energy the moment that she walks into it, right? Just magnetized. And a few minutes into the conversation, she said something that kind of paused the show. She said, "Brandon, I do not know who I am when things are not going well." Um, like she even paused. It's like she'd been sitting with that sentence for a long time and never really said it out loud before. And so we sat there for a second just because I feel like we both felt the weight of that acknowledgement. When the results are coming in and the momentum is building and the evidence supports the story that you've been telling about yourself, you guys being that person is super easy. You know who you are. You know what you stand for. The identity is visibility and it's you can see it. It's confirmed and it's reinforced by every metric you can point to. But when the results stop, when the relationship fractures, when the launch does not land the way you planned, when the season gets hard in a prolonged, nobody warned you about it kind of way, who are you then? When there is no external confirmation to borrow identity from, have you ever asked yourself what is left? And most people do not know the answer to that question. And it's not because they're not self aware, because they've been building their identity on top of their performance rather than underneath it. And a performance based identity is the most structurally unsound thing that you can build a life on because performance fluctuates, right? Always in every domain for every single person. And when the performance dips and it will, as it must, as it always does, the identity built on top of it just literally goes with it. So today I want to help you build something different, something that does not move when the circumstances move, something that's still standing when everything else is crumbling. You guys, welcome back to the Listen Bitch podcast. This episode is really for the person who is in the hard season right now. Not the season they talk about in the past tense with the clean resolution and the lesson learned, the one they're in right now. So if this is you, you're in it, the one that doesn't even have a title yet. You're in the season that, you're the one asking questions that you don't have answers to and you're requiring, things from yourself that you're not even sure you have. And the one thing that is showing you with clarity is the gap between who you thought you were and who you actually are when the pressure is on. Huge gap. The gap, though, I just want to make it clear, talk about gaps a lot. It is not failure. The gap is an invitation. And I want to teach you how to use that. I am Brandon Lynette, Voice Authority Podcast Coach. You guys, your mess is your message. The hard seasons in my story are not hypothetical. I have been in the pressure. Bitch, I'm in the pressure right now. I have felt the identity shift when the ground moved. I've watched myself respond to difficulty in ways that did not match who I said I was. And I've done the work. That very unglamorous, unsexy, nobody watches this part and nobody gives a fuck about it kind of work. Like nobody's patting me on the back. But I did the work of building an identity that is rooted deep enough to hold when the storm comes. And today I'm bringing that here. As always, this episode is brought to you by my super patch. You guys can't ever see them because of my tattoos. And so I'm going to have to just remember to show you before I actually stick it on. But, of course, today we'll talk about peace and Zen because that's what I'm wearing together. Because the truth is, I still get nervous before I record. Even now, especially in my interview show, like sweaty palms, even after everything, the version of me that shows up to this microphone is the version that has peace on before the session starts. And then when I need to be fully present and clear, with a neurospicy brain, I don't need to be in my head about whether or not this is going to hit for you guys. And the whole time I speak, I overthink. This shuts everything down. There's zero drugs, zero ingredients. I can smack these on a baby and it's safe. It's just vibrotactile technology. Um, Basically, in layman's terms, it's Braille for your brain. And it's just telling your nervous system that it is safe to show up fully, that the pressure does not have to compromise the presence, that you can be in the hard thing and still be yourself in it. And that's what these patches do for me. I've got the link in the show notes. I recommend both. But there's a patch for everybody, you guys, and we could talk about that. You can message me anytime. So identity under pressure. Okay, your identity, you guys, and it's this is something else I'm learning on this new show here. It's this new show is like literally my classroom every single day. Um, your identity is not what you do. It is not what you produce, and it's not how you perform or how you're received, what your numbers say, or what the season looks like from the outside. Your identity is what remains when all of that shit is gone. All of it. Okay. Um, and that this is not just a spiritual statement, it's neurological. Okay. Because those two things I feel like are so connected. The brain constructs what psychologists call a self schema. Okay. That is a neural network of beliefs, memories, associations, and narratives that all of that put together forms the story of who you are. And like every other neural structure that we talk about on this show, the self schema is built through repetition, the reps. I know. One of these days, you guys could turn this into a drinking game. Take a shot if she says reps. And by shot, I mean like water or my oil. Okay. But I don't want you guys to die. The reps through consistent input of experiences, messages, and meanings that get wired together into a coherent picture of self. And this is the problem. It's the problem is that most people's self schema is built predominantly from external input, from feedback, from results, from what other people say about what the metrics show and what the outcomes confirm, which means the self schema is only as stable as that external environment. Okay. And the external environment, you guys, that's never fucking stable. We're in the arena, we're getting our ass kicked. Life is a lifing. It's going to change. Contracts, expands, confirms, it contradicts, supports, withdraws. It is the epitome of ebb and flow. And the person whose identity is built primarily from external input rides every wave of the environment up when things are good, destabilized when things are hard, scrambling to find solid ground in a landscape that is never going to stop moving. The person whose self schema is built from internal input, when I say from values, from character, from what they believe about who they are at the level it does not change with the season, that person has a different experience of pressure. And I wouldn't say it's an easier one necessarily. Okay. The pressure is still very real and the hard season is still very hard, but the identity is not in the pressure's hands. It's somewhere the pressure can't reach. And that difference between an identity that is available regardless of circumstances and an identity that depends on circumstances to confirm it, that is the difference between a person who bends in the storm and a person who breaks. The roots are everything, and roots are built in the quiet, you guys. They're not built in the performance. There is an identity trap that I have watched again in this show, watching my guests. I've done like 100 interviews right now. This one right now, it gets the most high achieving, most self-aware, most genuinely committed people. They fall into this trap and they almost never see it coming. Your greatest strength becomes your identity anchor, and your identity anchor becomes your greatest vulnerability. This woman that I interviewed, the one who built the thing and filled the rooms and did not know who she was when things were not going well, her anchor was her results. Not because she's shallow, but because she was extraordinary at producing results. And when you're extraordinary at something, it is completely natural and completely understandable to build your sense of self around that. The results confirm the identity. The identity then produces more results, and it is a beautiful reinforcing loop right up until the moment the results stop, and then the loop runs backwards. The results stop, the identity destabilizes. The destabilized identity produces fewer results. The fewer results further destabilize the identity, and the person who was extraordinary 6 months ago is now in a fucking crisis they cannot explain. They can't explain it to anyone because from the outside, nothing dramatic happened. There was no big event. The season just got hard, and hard revealed that the foundation was not as deep as the building suggested. Um, and there's another version of this that I see constantly in the people that I work with. The helper whose identity is built around being needed. Remove the need, let them rest, let them stop being the one who holds all the shit together. Let them have a season where nobody requires anything of them and they do not know what to do with themselves. The helping was not just what they did, it was who they were. And without it, they felt purposeless in a way that it's genuinely disorienting. Or there's the strong one, right? The person whose identity is built on never falling apart, on being the one that everybody can lean on. You have all your shit together when everyone else does not. Give that person a season where they cannot hold it together, when the weight is genuinely too much and the cracks are showing, and watch how much energy goes into managing the appearance of strength rather than actually dealing with what's happening. Because if they fall apart, they lose the identity, and losing their identity feels more threatening than whatever is actually going on. You guys know how fucking exhausting this would be. You know it. If you're in one of these seasons, you know you're exhausted. The food companies know this. They know that people under identity pressure, whose sense of self is destabilized, whose usual confirmation is not coming, who are in the very specific vulnerable part of a hard season. They are the most susceptible to comfort products. Okay. The eating that is not about nutrition, the spending that is not about need, the scrolling that is not about information, the numbing that's not about rest. They position their products at the exact intersection of identity pressure and coping behavior. They know the architecture of your crisis better than you do. And they built the solution to the feeling they helped manufacture. Even my favorite, the deep state, the corrupt pedophile ring, kid eating, mutilating, insane, nasty little demons they are. The corrupt structures running things from behind the big curtain. They need you in identity crisis. A population that does not know who it is can be told who it is. You see why there's so many people out there struggling with their identity, and people that can't even accept themselves are scrambling to get us to accept a version of them that they've made up. People are struggling with their identity, and the system has monetized that. They've manipulated it, they pressured it, they lit a fire on that bitch. They pour gasoline on it every day. By, the manipulation, they're telling you, the media, the institutions, the ideological framework that is waiting with a ready-made identity for anyone who fills the vacuum. So they created a bunch of labels. That is not a theory. That is the mechanism. Fill the identity vacuum with the managed identity, and the managed identity is compliant by design. You have to know who the fuck you are, actually rooted, unshakably knowing who you are. And the manufactured identity has nowhere to catch a grip. Yeah, of course, there's a season. There was a season when I found out exactly who I was under pressure, and it was not the version that I had been marketing. There's a period in the building of this work, the unglamorous results not yet visible, but everybody thought I had my shit together in that phase that every person who builds something real has to survive, right? Where nothing was confirming to the identity I had been presenting. The audience was small, the income super inconsistent. People around me did not fully understand what I was building or why. And the version of me that showed up in the season was not the confident, clear vision holding version I talked about publicly. It was scared and resentful and really convinced that the whole thing was a mistake. Everything's a mistake. This is what I learned about myself in that season, that my identity had more performance in it than I know, more dependency on external confirmation than I admitted, and more of the not enough wound still running, okay, than a lot of episodes of this show would ever suggest. The pressure revealed the gap. Not to destroy me, but to show me exactly where the foundation really needed work. And the work, you guys, is not a rebrand. It wasn't a rebrand. It was not a new strategy. It was not more content, right? Or more connection or more momentum. It was that very specific daily unglamorous work of choosing who I was going to be, regardless of what the season was confirming. Not performing who I wanted to be, not the fake it till you make it, just pretend to be someone else until you become your own self. No, I had to really decide in the pressure, in the gap between the vision and the current reality. I had to decide in that super hard moment that who I am is not determined by how this is going. And I remember this day very clearly. Nothing had gone right. Um, the episodes I was recording just continued to feel flat. A conversation I'd been hoping would lead somewhere didn't lead anywhere. And the numbers were doing the things the numbers do in the hard season. They're existing, just existing with all of the really all of the enthusiasm of the DMV waiting room. Okay. I'm in my car, I'm in a parking lot, spent a lot of time there when my girls were running in college. In a parking lot. You know, the thing I love about parking lots, apparently where I do all my best thinking, a lot of projects were born in a damn parking lot. But I had this very honest, knowing nobody is watching conversation with God. And it really went something like, Dear God, I fucked up, which is how I start most of our conversations. I fucked up. I know this isn't working. I don't think this is working. I do not know if I'm the person I say I am, and I can't be who I want to be without you. And I need to learn right now how to build this foundation with you and who I am through you. That's the only way I'm ever going to know if this is the thing that I'm meant to be building. And the thing that came back to me, okay, and God answers when you've been honest enough with your real self, he really does answer. And never once was any answer I've ever gotten him was reassurance about results. Um, it was just that question for myself. Who am I when the results are not confirming it? You take everything away. And this is a question I ask on my show. You take everything away. You take your titles, you take your accolades, you take your accomplishments, your awards, like take all that shit away. Who are you? And you sit with that because the honest answer is not the clean answer. The honest answer is I'm finding out, right? I'm in the process of building the identity that does not need confirmation. And that's like realizing you're starting at zero again. And you're going to look stupid and you're going to feel dumb and you're going to have a lot of questions. And it's so scary to just continue to start over. And the process is harder than I thought it would be. It is. I can't even sugarcoat it. It's hard. And I'm doing it anyway. So that day in the parking lot was not a low point. Probably if you really knew in the moment of how I felt, it was not a low point. It was foundation being poured to set me up for like this moment, to set me up to have this interview show, to set me up to be home with my babies again. All of these things and the roots going deeper because the storm is asking them to. The identity is being built from something other than the metrics for the very first time in a long time. And there is an agreement, there's an agreement of understanding that, hey, God's got to do some work. I can't expect numbers to say what I want them to say when I'm going through so much work. Like it's day one, ground zero. Ground zero, you guys are witnessing that yet again, right? Yet again. It's very unsexy work. It's very unglamorous. It's invisible, but it is so necessary and it's available to you right now in whatever parking lot of a season that you're currently sitting in. Okay. Um, this week I just interviewed a man that I won't forget. There's quite a few of those, but he had been by every measure at the top. Built a seven-figure business, had the following, had the income, had the respect, had the platform. And then the market shifted and the business contracted and the team that had been his identity mirror, the people whose belief in him had been part of how he knew who he was, they left or were let go. And he was alone with a business that was a fraction of what it had been and an identity that had been built entirely on the size of the thing. And he told me he spent 3 months not getting out of bed before noon. Not because he was clinically depressed, though he had to go find out because he needed to know, but because the morning required him to be someone and he did not know who that someone was anymore. The person he had been was the CEO of a thing that no longer existed at the scale that had essentially defined him. And without the scale, he genuinely could not locate himself. And what brought him back was not a business strategy. It was a conversation with his daughter. She was 7. She did not know about metrics, you guys. She did not know the business was smaller. She did not know about the team that had left or the revenue that had contracted or the identity crisis her father was having in the space between who he had been and who he was becoming. She just knew her dad. And one morning she jumps up on the bed when he's not getting up and she's like, Daddy, you smell like my favorite thing. And he said he laid there for a long time after she left, not because it solved anything, but it revealed something to him. His daughter's identity of him had nothing to do with the performance. She did not need the CEO. She needed the dad. And the dad, that specific present, I smell like her favorite thing, dad, was still there, unchanged by the season, available regardless of any metric. And he told me that morning was the day he started building from something different, not the business back to its former size, though that did come. He's killing it now. But the identity back to something that did not depend on the size of anything. Something that was there before the success and would be there after it. Something his daughter could climb into bed with on a Tuesday morning and find unchanged. That's the identity under pressure that holds, not the one built on performance, the one built underneath it. You guys, this shows up in how you talk about yourself when things are not going well. The specific language you use, whether you say the business is going through a hard season or I'm a failure, whether you say this relationship is in a difficult place or I am unlovable, whether you say the launch did not go as planned or I am not cut out for this. The language reveals the architecture, and the architecture reveals where the identity is located in the circumstance or in the self. It shows up in the decisions you make when no one's watching and nothing is confirming. The workout you do or do not do when the motivation is gone and the results aren't yet visible. The content you create or do not create when the numbers are not responding and the effort feels invisible. The integrity you maintain or compromise when the pressure makes the shortcut look reasonable. Those decisions, the ones made in the gap between the vision and the confirmation, are the ones that build or erode your identity. Not the ones made when everything is going well, the ones made in the fucking parking lot. And if your brain is wired for intensity, it's kind of brutal. A brain that feels everything more deeply experiences identity pressure with a force that is genuinely physiological. The destabilization is not just psychological, it is in the body, the chest, the gut, that heaviness that arrives when the confirmation is withdrawn and the internal infrastructure is not strong enough to hold the weight. And the temptation for that brain is extremely powerful and it's very understandable, but it is that temptation is to do whatever restores the external confirmation as quickly as possible, to perform, to hustle, to produce output that might bring back the metrics, that bring back the identity that makes that feeling stop. That's a fucking trap. Because performance that comes from identity desperation does not produce the same quality as performance that comes from identity security. It's frantic. You need focused. It's reactive instead of creative. And the audience, your clients, the community, the people you're building with and for, they feel the difference even if they can't put their finger on it. Desperation has a frequency and security has a different one entirely. Build the security first. The performance follows every time. I want you guys to pause for a second because I see you. If you're in the hard season right now, if you're sitting in that gap between who you've been and who you're becoming, and the episode is actually making sense to you for something that you couldn't make sense of, send it to another person that needs it. The one who is in the contraction right now and doesn't know who they are in it. They need this show. They, make sure you subscribe, leave a review. It's the most direct thing you could do to help me reach the next person who needs this, okay? You guys, pressure does not create character. Pressure reveals it. And what it reveals is not fixed. It's not cemented in, okay? Every hard season is showing you the current state of the foundation. And it's not a judgment, you guys. It's just information. It's data as the most accurate diagnostic available for the exact work that needs to happen next. The season that destabilizes you is not punishing you. It is showing you exactly where the roots need to go deeper, exactly where the identity is still built on performance rather than underneath it, exactly where the self-schema needs new input. It shows you exactly where the work is. The identity that holds under pressure is built during the pressure. It's not before it, it's not after it, you guys, it's in it. Every decision you make in the hard season that is consistent with who you've decided to be, regardless of what the season's confirming. It's a neural rep, a brick in the foundation. It is a root going deeper. And the identity that comes out of the hard season, if you do the work while you're in it, is structurally stronger than anything you have built in the comfortable one. Jesus was tested in the desert before the ministry began. 40 days, no food, no community, no results, no confirmation, just the pressure and the identity and the choice about which one he was going to determine the other. And he came out of the desert not diminished, but I'd say clarified. Not broken, you guys, he's rooted. The pressure did not reveal a crack in the foundation. The pressure revealed how deep the foundation was actually built. And I want to say this with my whole heart, you guys, this is available to you right now in the season you're in. The pressure is not the problem. The pressure is the training and the identity you're building in it. One decision at a time, one rep at a time, one parking lot at a time. It's the one that is going to hold everything you're building for the rest of your life. I need you guys to hold yourselves accountable, get honest, and go deeper because the storm is worth it. And then, of course, we're going to talk about steps you could take. First thing, I don't know why my throat's getting scratchy, I guess because I talk too much and I've recorded so many shows today. I want you guys to write the sentence that is true about who you are regardless of how the season's going. No aspirational bullshit. Okay, the decided one. I don't want you to write, I am becoming. I want your I am statement in present tense. Character-based, completely independent of any external confirmation, okay? I want you to write it. I want you to try this. I want you to put it somewhere you're going to see it in the morning, not as a fucking decoration, but as the instruction your brain receives before it encounters the day. Because the brain looks for proof and truth, right? It's always collecting the evidence of the story it has been told. Tell it the right story before the day has a chance to tell it a different one. Second, identify the one behavior that, if you maintained it through the hard season, would be the most powerful evidence to your own nervous system that the identity is intact. Not the most visible behavior, the most personally meaningful one. The one that says to you, regardless of what the metrics say, regardless of what the season looks like, I am still this person. I want you to do that thing today. Not when the season turns, but today in that pressure. That is the rep that's going to build your foundation. The third thing I'm going to say today is do the honest audit of where your identity is currently anchored. And get specific. Is it in the results? Maybe it's the relationships or the role or the reputation, maybe the income. Write it down and then ask yourself if that specific thing was removed tomorrow. If the results stopped, the relationship changed, the role ended, the income disappeared, who would you be? If the answer is unclear to you, or if the answer is uncomfortable, you've just found your work. And again, it's not a fucking crisis. Listen, bitch, it's just information. And it's coming through as the precise location of the foundation that needs to go deeper. Data. Right now, today, in the specific hard shit that you're carrying that nobody can see, you are being asked the most important question of your entire life. Not by the season, by the person you are becoming through it. Who are you when nothing is confirming it? I know you've been trying to answer that question by yourself. I know you've been white-knuckling the identity through the pressure, hoping the season turns before you run out of the performance that's been holding it all together. I know the fucking exhaustion of building in public while falling apart in private, of showing up with energy you do not have for an audience that does not know the cost of what you're carrying. You cannot coach yourself out of an identity crisis the same way you cannot perform surgery on yourself. You need someone who has been in the pressure, who knows the brain science of how identity is built and rebuilt, who can see the foundation you've been building and tell you specifically where it needs to go deeper. You need someone who is not going to tell you it's fine when it's not fine, and not going to tell you to burn it down when what you actually need is to pour a better foundation. That is exactly what I do. Brain science and faith and the story and the direct zero tolerance for bullshit excuses coaching that turns the hard season into the foundation of the most powerful work you've ever built. If you have been, if you're exhausted, that's just your body telling you you've been in the pressure long enough. You've been trying to figure it out alone long enough. The work you were made to do, that podcast, that message, the voice that is supposed to reach the exact person who needs it, that work cannot wait another season for you to feel stable enough to build it. Check the show notes. Come work with me. Tell me what you're in right now. Tell me who you are under that pressure. I already know you have what it takes. Let me help you build the foundation that's going to prove it. I'll see you guys tomorrow.